Welcome back, folks. I'm Frizz, and today we're going to be taking some time to talk about buffing in Pathfinder 2e. You really can't overstate how big of an impact buffing can have in 2e as a whole, but I do have some slight problems with its implementation. So to start off with, I need to clarify that while the numbers might not be as big in Pathfinder 2e when it comes to buffs as they are in, say, Pathfinder 1st Edition, they are just as effective, if not more effective. Due to how proficiency scales your entire character sheet, a +1 bonus to attack rolls at level 1 is going to be just about as useful as a +1 bonus to attack rolls at level 20. So yeah, heroism gives a much smaller numerical bonus in Pathfinder 2e, but that hardly means that it isn't as powerful or as useful. Effectively, never underestimate the power of a +1. One of the best tips that I can give for players and GMs alike is to explicitly call out when a situational modifier makes a difference. Don't just say that a strike hits, say that a strike only hits due to the enemy being flanked. It helps people actually recognize how often conditions and buffs make a difference in a fight. They might not affect every single roll that you make, but they show up more often than you might actually realize. And if people can actually see that they're effective, then they're more likely to use those buffs and tactics in the future. Another fun part about buffs is that basically every class has access to at least some way to help out their allies. Not everyone has access to spells like Bless, but most classes have some way to help out their friends. And again, everybody can use Aid, and Aid is a silly powerful ability past around level 5, if you don't have another reaction that you're particularly attached to. Now, as much as I clearly like buffing in Pathfinder 2e, I do have some gripes with it. More accurately, I have some gripes with buff spells and how they've been implemented. Effectively, buff spells are super negatively impacted by how short spell durations are in Pathfinder 2e. Seriously, heroism lasts 10 minutes now, when it lasted 10 minutes per caster level in Pathfinder 1st Edition. While heroism is no doubt still a very good spell in Pathfinder 2e, it's just not going to ever last more than a single fight. Since basically every single fight in 2e is going to have a 10-minute break at the end to patch people up or maybe identify items, and a lot of the time that break is going to be a lot longer than just 10 minutes. It just isn't very reasonable for a lot of spells to last longer than a single encounter. It's just not going to happen very much. This means that a spellcaster who wants to focus on buffing their allies doesn't have much longevity in their spell slots. They can't ration them out over the entire day. If you are going to be casting heroism on the fighter in the party, then you're going to need multiple heroisms throughout the day to make that a consistent strategy. And honestly, using a bunch of spell slots for the same spell over and over again isn't always the most fun thing to do. Now, I understand why Paizo made the decision to decrease the power of buff spells, since they could get seriously crazy in Pathfinder 1st Edition. If you stacked 4 of them on top of each other, things got out of control really quick, and someone would cut them out in half. On the other hand, though, they already made a pretty significant change that reduces the usefulness of buff spells. More particularly, reducing the amount of bonuses. In 2e, most spells give a status bonus, where in Pathfinder 1st Edition, there were 12 different types of bonuses that you could get on a roll, and you could then stack a bunch of different spells, and yada yada yada, it got really crazy. Due to basically every spell applying a status condition now, it means that most buff spells don't stack. And they don't stack, and they don't last as long. This doesn't mean that buffs are bad or underwhelming in practice. It just means that they feel underwhelming because you're using a potentially limited resource to give a boost for a single fight, and again, the numbers look like they'll be less effective because they are smaller numbers, but they're still effective. I would love in the future to see some longer lasting buff spells be added, or maybe a feat that allows for you to heighten a spell in order to increase the duration but not getting the normal heighten effect. Buffs are absolutely an important part of Pathfinder 2e, and the difference between a party that has good support and one without any is monumental. I just wish that buff spells themselves were a bit better, and that they lasted a bit longer. Thanks for watching. Buff spells are an interesting topic in 2e, and I fully expect that people will have vastly different opinions on them. I'm happy for the most part that buff stacking is no longer a thing, but I do wish that you didn't always have to spend time in a fight to cast buffs, since their duration is so short. What do you guys think? Let me know in a comment down below, so I can actually see your opinion, and so the YouTube overlords above will give me a good harvest this winter. Regardless, until I see you next, live a wonderful life.